Well, hello YouTubers, and whoever else is watching. I wanted to make a quick video because I was just so stunned this morning just how beautiful this local park is. This is Eastville Park, and this is a bridge that I'm crossing now, and it's over the river Avon, I believe, and it's one of the big local rivers here in Bristol in the UK. And I've been coming here for 25 years, in fact. Just such a long time now, and it's just such a stunning place to visit. I haven't been here for some months, so I think that's probably why it's so beautiful, and also because I haven't been here in spring for such a long time now. Let's have a closer look at the river, and there you can see stunning waterfall there, and as the water moves down. I'm probably not doing it justice at the moment because the camera's not the best, to be honest with you. Nevertheless, it really is a stunning sort of river, and it flows right through the whole park actually, and you'll find a thriving wildlife around it. Lots of fish. You often see the odd angler, hopefully with a permit, and so many birds that you will see. In fact, I don't know if I can zoom in on them, but there's actually some mallards there. It's probably quite hard to make out, but there's a few of them right on the edge of the water. I don't know if you can clearly see them there, but there's all manner of bird life here really, and you hear lots of different birds tweeting and from all around the place. Just really stunning. It's just a really beautiful place to visit. I grew up in Fishponds, the local area. I used to come down here with my stepfather, and we used to walk the dog and have a roam about the place. My brother and I used to play hide and seek and various other games, and we used to enjoy it. And there's a duck who's going with the flow over there. Don't know if you can sort of make him out. He's sort of being swept along by the river stream. It's got a strong current actually today. It's fairly shallow water, but it gets deeper in other parts further downstream. And it's lovely to see things out in bloom. In fact, we had such a mild winter here this year that we already had daffodils out a month ago. Really unusual. You can probably hear some of the bird songs there. As I'm looking at the screen, I can't actually see anything that's being filmed, so I really don't know. There's such a variety of different trees and plants. It really is so much in such a small area that it is just stunning. And you might just be able to hear the bird song there in the background if I'm able to keep quiet for a bit. It's lovely to see all the blossom out as well. Of course, blossom is one of the early flowers that comes out in early spring, in fact. And I think it's one of the earliest. I'll see if I can sort of get a close-up of it. There's quite a few of these. These ones are particularly beautiful. You obviously get pink ones. These are white. It's a really lovely place for children to come and play. It's like an adventure playground almost. Lots of trees that are climbable. Lots of areas to scramble through. Sort of not too steep, muddy embankments that you can scramble up and down and slip and slide about. And there's just like lots of large park areas, long stretches of lawns that are nice for ball games and mucking about. There's quite a few rope swings you'll find dotted here and there. You see lots of dog walkers and joggers and people with kids, and it's a good hangout for teenagers and lots of different people from all walks of life you see strolling around here. It's a really, really beautiful place. Actually, just to sort of give you a little historical background, it's very interesting, or not, but this actually was the old wall that was part of the old border. You can see here how it's quite hard to see, perhaps, how it's sort of fallen down and dilapidated. And I think if we go a bit further up, you can sort of see it a bit more clearly. In fact, you can see bits of the wall that fell apart over the years, the various fragments of it. And this was one of the old city walls, and because back in the day there was an old castle, and those people that lived in and paid taxes had the protection of the castle guards, of course. And there were sort of various wild people who lived in the outskirts, and so they had that wall built. But that goes back to medieval times, and it long ago collapsed. And in fact, you can even walk straight through the wall nowadays. So there's a sort of remain of it left. There's something almost beautiful, isn't there, about partial remains of ruins of very old buildings, just giving you an insight into some sort of historical realm that once was. And here, what's really lovely is there's such a variety of different trees in terms of different species, but actually in terms of age, there are many trees here which date back to the late medieval period. There are a whole wealth, in fact, that could easily be dated 4, 5, maybe even older, 500 years, I mean. And this one here, for example, I'm guessing this one must be 300 or 400 years. Unfortunately, it's being overgrown by ivy, and I haven't got my knife with me at the moment. I like to try and cut back the ivy, especially when it's strangulating and overgrowing some of the older trees, because I do believe that some of the older trees really, well, they're older than many houses here, and should be guarded and protected like architectural gems, really. And now that's interesting. I've not seen that before. A bouquet of flowers or something. That must be a memory for someone, I guess. I'm not quite sure who, though. This is a lovely little bench, a nice area that people sit down on. This is the old field where I used to play games with my brother, and sometimes we came down with other friends. Very sort of ordinary sort of park, this part of it, of course. But the trees vary considerably in species, in age, and there are lots of little pockets of them where they're sort of all growing up together. And around them you see great variety of different hedges and just a whole wealth of different kind of birds and habitat within the trees as well. You can really hear it singing and buzzing and all full of life, really. Parts of the field down here, they'll leave to grow wild for some parts of the year. It sort of is kind of like long grass, and they leave it to grow wild during the later months, during autumn, the harvest. So you often find it kind of buzzing with insects, and it grows as tall as your head sometimes, so you can sort of really wade through it and kind of get lost if you sit down in it. And it's and now further up here, there's a really little beautiful cemetery, funnily enough, that's mostly overgrown now. That dates back hundreds of years, but it's really quite an antique, old-fashioned one. And it's nice to see sort of one that's living and full of growth of new plants and lots of trees, and it's a really sort of beautiful kind of cemetery, actually. Perhaps we'll go and have a walk and wander in there one day. Well, it's actually an old Jewish cemetery that I think they may accept a few Gentiles, but it's gradually expanded further down so that it's now sort of into the forest more. And there's lots of other trees that have gradually grown up around it. There's one tree there which seems to have died, and I'm wondering why that is. That's really odd. That's the exception here, I think, rather than the rule. Most trees seem to be thriving and full of life, You can see a lot of them are budding now, and there's a lot of new growth. This is really the time when you start to see little leaves, tender shoots coming out. And I've just been out picking the first of the garlic leaves, actually, and they're quite small at the moment, but they'll grow and they taste nice and salad. You can cook them too. This is the pond that we've got. It's quite hard to see through the trees, but if we walk round the other side, then you can have a glimpse of that, and perhaps some of the birds as well. They've got lots of ducks, and I think there's coots and various things. At the moment there seems to be lots of ravens feeding, so that's quite nice. I always think there's a good etiquette about them. They don't like to get too close to people, and it's got nothing to do with the virus. It's just, I guess they don't trust people that much. But they do get close, just not too close. They're not like seagulls. They won't sort of come and snatch it out of your hand and think, oh, that's great. They're all just fluttered off like that. Someone's obviously left a lot of breadcrumbs behind for them. So, and we've also got swans at the moment too. The number of swans varies a lot. It sort of goes up and down. Now there is the coot. I can't see a single thing through this camera, so I don't even know if it's filming. Pigeons, they get everywhere, and there's some Canada geese, I believe they're called, and that's a really grand tree, isn't it, that one? Yeah. It's very funny walking with a camera and that. I believe in the future, I think that everyone should have cameras fitted in helmets, clothing. I want to see everyone everywhere with cameras. I mean, why not, because that way, we've got evidence for everything everywhere, I think that's a great thing. And actually, if you look at it in terms of the future, that really could be the way to go. I'm not talking about getting implants. I don't want a robot inside my body. Got enough problems. But just in terms of in clothing and accessories that you can wear, it seems like an ideal solution. And actually, if you think about it, the cost of technology should gradually come down rapidly. And I'm looking at the bigger picture. If it takes years or decades, however long, but you can produce very tiny cameras for very low cost, an industrialized kind of factory, and pump them out. You could, it's not that ridiculous to think there'll be a time in the future where we're producing literally billions of them in just a few weeks. So I think that's a sort of realistic prospect, that we'll all get used to wearing it. And yeah, and I think that sort of we're already entering that age already. It's just that we're in the infancy. In fact, we're beyond the infancy. That was 30, 40 years ago, wasn't it? 50 years perhaps. We've got CCTV surveillance cameras, all over cities, town centres, shop fronts. People have started buying them outside their own houses. That's moved on in the last 10, 20 years to dash cam, hasn't it? Cars have got them, police interviews rooms, and we're seeing this sort of series of docu-soaps everywhere now, aren't we? And I think there is that human interest to sort of see everything everywhere. And I think the reason for having, I suppose, is just evidence, isn't it, really? And evidence of how beautiful life can be sometimes. But obviously we know that there can be incidents that happen too. And I think it's probably a good thing that things like police interviews are today interviewed with a camera, so that we can be more sure what the procedures are, and it safeguards both the police but also the people being interviewed. And I just think that should be a standard procedure anywhere. I think if you've got nothing to hide, what would be the problem of having cameras everywhere? But I suppose the argument would be that it pushes things to be hidden further afield. maybe people would do or corrupt things, but hide it better, I guess. And that's very hard to know, actually, but in any case, this is the pond. I'll just give you a reflection back on it. I can't see anything, so I don't know if it's even recording.